Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Sheila Farragher-Gemma. She has an entrepreneurial spirit which leads her to the world of marketing consulting. She is an entrepreneur and business owner. Please enjoy Sheila Farragher-Gemma. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I am here with Sheila Farragher-Gemma. She is an entrepreneur and business owner, and I am super excited to have you join me for today's episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Mari. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
You are so welcome. Well, before we jump into the world of creativity, if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple of minutes and letting our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Sheila Farragher-Gemma, as you did excellent pronunciation of that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank
It's
you.
usually butchered. It's just like a very long name. And I help platform owners find sponsors for their platform. So mainly events, but podcasts and other things like that as well. And in the last year, I've actually created a product as to how to do that. And I became an entrepreneur after my first child was born, Aisling. She's now 25 years old, so a while ago. And I just didn't want to go back to work after maternity leave. I wanted to have something in my life that supported me and supported me being with her. And I've had multiple businesses. Some have been great. I've had 2 exits. Some have been awful and everything in between. So yeah, lots to talk about.
Nice. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Welcome. And as our listeners can hear, you have this delightful Irish accent.
I do? Where did that come from? Yes, I'm Irish.
Yes, one that I love. I love accents.
Oh, thank you. Now you look more Irish than me. I know they can't see us, but
it's so true. People assume I am, and I am not at all.
Right,
So.
exactly. And nobody ever thinks I am. They all go with like Italian or Indian or something, and it's like, no, Irish.
But I love that surprise and, the creativity that goes into what we create in our minds and assume about a person. And then when we actually check it out, we're like completely wrong.
Yeah.
So, I love it. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think about creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
So to me, it's like finding solutions. So, when I first heard of your podcast, I was like, well, I'm not a crafter. I'm not something like that. So I don't know much about that kind of stuff. But to me, I feel like I've always been very creative in my life, how I found solutions to help me get to where I want to be, I guess. There's a saying in Ireland, which is, I'm thinking of it now, it's an awful saying, but there's more than one way to skin a cat is how it is.
Right,
but, so there's more than one way of doing things. So rather than just kind of sticking with I've always done it like this, it's like, can we improve this? If it's an issue, is it something that we can get around by being creative about it? So I think I feel like a lot of that has been my strength in where I've gone, as well as just kind of being able to kind of rethink things and repicture and see, is there another way to do this? Or is there, a different way to do this?
Yeah, I think that is a skill too. Not everyone feels they have the capacity to reimagine something or see it through, a different lens, or see it from the right side or left side versus straight
exactly.
on.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't either. Sometimes I have this tunnel vision. I'm like, I'm such a problem. And it's like, oh, no problem.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing how when we look at something from a different angle or take a step back, and I like to say, take the balcony view of an issue, we have a different perspective. But it also sounds like, from what you were saying, starting businesses and the creativity that goes into that, I can only imagine how creative one has to be. But also, you briefly before we started talking were saying that you wanted to stay at home after having children and not
Mhm.
be in the kind of corporate world.
Right. Yeah.
And that's hugely creative. Finding a way to be able to sustain that while having children is amazing.
Yeah, it's either hugely creative or just desperation. And I feel on my behalf, it was a little bit of desperation. I just knew that I wanted to be a mom that was home, that like did all the things, the soccer matches and the dance recitals, and
Mhm.
you know, whenever there was something that was needed, I was there. And you know, I was at a job that I didn't particularly love. I wasn't engaged,
Mhm.
and I just, I guess, you know, I guess it is born out of desperation a little bit, but yeah, it was just, it's nice to kind of empower yourself to do that and create something for yourself that is going to
Yeah.
really support what it is that you're looking to do in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And despite it being out of desperation, I think sometimes we have our most creative moments in the constraints or boundaries we're in.
Yeah, exactly, because sometimes like it's almost like a laziness. It's like, oh, I'll just do it this way. I probably could find a different way, but this is working, you know. And
Right.
sometimes, you know, when it's a situation where like, okay, this is not working, I need to find a different way, it kind of creates
Yeah,
something different.
exactly. Absolutely. I talk on my podcast quite a bit about stepping off the path of least resistance. So when we get
Yeah.
into those habits, it's easy to stay at the job that isn't fulfilling or doesn't bring us joy. And it's super scary to step off that path
Right,
and do
exactly.
something
Yeah.
different. But when
Yeah.
we're faced with that desperation, it's maybe a little bit easier to step
That's
off
it.
that
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
Nice. And
Cool.
how do you face creative challenges? I mean, I can only imagine the challenges of starting businesses or.
It's just I like to see who's on the path ahead of me and what they've done. So a lot of asking questions, seeking advice, thinking outside of the box. A lot of stuff will kind of come to me at odd times, like in the shower, or I'll wake up from a dream or something like that. So the subconscious is probably working on it as well. So our
Yeah.
subconscious is amazing at like coming up with solutions for us, you know.
Mhm.
I haven't done I hear it on podcasts and stuff, you know, ask a question at night and you wake up in the morning and you'll have it, which I haven't done yet. Well, maybe I have, maybe I go to sleep thinking about things, but yeah, it's more the just kind of who went before you, what did they do? And just having a peer group, which I think is really important when you're an entrepreneur or business owner as well, that you have, you know, a support group of people who get you, because not everyone does.
Mhm.
You know, your husband and kids may not get you, and parents certainly don't get me, but you know, just having others that are entrepreneurial as well, that like you can go in and have a problem, have a brainstorm, and come out with some different solutions as well. So,
Mhm.
so
Yeah. Do you find that when you have that, other people around you, do you want people who will challenge you as well as cheer you on, or where do
oh,
you?
totally, yeah. Like cheering on is really like, oh, you're such a rock star, good for you. It's like that gets you nowhere, you know.
Right.
It's I mean, it's nice for the ego, but yeah, I'd much prefer to move forward rather than like stay where I am and feel really good about it. You know?
Mhm. So
So
having those
yeah,
people who.
having those people who will challenge you and challenge your thought processes and stuff as well, because you know sometimes you think you kind of have it all solved and it's something like really obvious. And I'd love to hear what other people do as well, because sometimes you learn it's like simple stuff as well. It's like, I didn't know you could do that like that, and you're like, your mind is blown, and it's just like
Right.
the tiniest thing, you know. So it's great to just like know what other people are doing, learn from other people. You know, 'cause sometimes they'll just do something and you're just like mind blown. That's so
Mhm.
simple.
Yeah, and I really believe that when we have someone kind of challenge us in our ideas, it actually sparks more creativity. It helps us
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
think
Because
bigger almost.
yeah, because like I mean, sometimes when you solve a problem, you kind of close the loop in your mind, and then
Mhm.
it stops thinking about it anymore. But what if you didn't really solve the problem that well? Maybe there was a
Right.
better solution, and somebody comes in, they ask that question, you're like, oh, damn it, really? You know?
Exactly.
And then it just kind of opens it up again. So I totally agree with you there.
Yeah. And, not only in business, but I think in life too, when we are making decisions, like, we may not appreciate 100% having someone challenge the choices that
Exactly.
we're making.
Yeah.
However, I think there's opportunity for us to continue to grow as people in our lives when saying, well, have you thought about it this way? Or, looked at it over here?
I think, we probably, when it's somebody, especially if it's somebody close to us, we probably like take it personally, and it isn't personal, if the sounds like going on your head, So I think just being able to, like you say, step back and just be like, okay, let's consider what they're saying. Maybe this isn't totally wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And way easier said than done. I believe, when you get a little too close to something and we hold on to things, our ideas so strongly. And when someone comes in and kind of blows it up, it can, I think for some people, be really devastating. And how we face those challenges can be telling.
Yeah.
And how we kind of recover from that too. And how can creativity kind of support us in that recovery and, helping us not take things personally.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Nice. I'm going to take a big left step and ask you about your childhood. Because I love this question. I love asking people, what's the earliest memory you have of being creative?
I'm not sure. So I have a memory of being very young, and my father told me that coal turns into diamonds. And I remember having the thought, oh, wow, that's really cool. And, he was probably in his 20s at the time. I was probably about 3 or 4. But I went to the coal shed and I grabbed a lump of coal and I brought it up to the backyard and I kind of buried it a little bit. And I figured by the time I was as old as him, which was ancient, he was in his 20s, I'd be really rich. So it's funny. I didn't think of that until I was going through your questions. And I was like, I guess I was creative at a young age. It was just, here we go, solution, millionaire.
Totally. That's amazing. I mean, and definitely something that as in America, not having houses heated by coal, that's not something that we might experience.
Yeah.
But that idea of, oh, this is how I'll get it. I think the easiest correlation I remember being told at a diner, shaking cream will turn it into butter. If you shake cream long enough and shaking it for hours.
Oh, but really?
Yeah, I mean, I
that's awesome.
Didn't shake it for hours, but that idea of something turning into something else, and the creativity and the magic that kind of comes from that, I think.
And I actually have another story as well. Years later, my eldest plays soccer, and my parents were over visiting, so we were all kind of sitting in the minivan watching the game, being lazy rather than being on the sides. And my mom was in the back seat with my daughter, my youngest daughter, and they played cards a lot, and they wanted to play cards, and we didn't have a deck of cards there. And they're both looking around. They're like, are you sure you don't have cards? I'm like, I'm pretty certain I don't have cards in my car, So they found some scrap pieces of paper in the trunk of the car, and they took them out. They got a marker and they wrote a deck of cards on the thing and cut them up into little pieces. And I remember at that time sitting there and saying, oh my God, this is my mother that I came from and my daughter who came from me. I was like, clearly there's, just the tenacity of it just amazed me. And it kind of brought me back to that I'm like that too. And I didn't, it was a funny thing.
Yeah. And it's so creative to make a deck of cards.
Yep. And they were just they had to put the hearts and the things on them because they're all the same color because we just have one pen in the car. But I just thought it was a really cool thing, and then they're playing cards, playing away with them. And
yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. I think when we start thinking about those moments in our life and remembering them, I truly believe that it can spark so much more creativity in our current life when we have those moments of remembering being creative.
Yeah, I think so as well, because part of what kind of hit me with that was it kind of reassured me that I can figure things out. It was this is the whole point that it was I'm very like my mom, I'm very like my daughter, my daughter's very like me, whichever way. And it was kind of like a reassurance. It's you could figure anything out. They just did this, and it didn't occur to me to cut up a deck of cards. I don't think I was really would care that much to play cards, but I just thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a good reminder of what you have the capacity to do as well.
Right. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. And the stories that people come up with are just, they're so wonderful and remind me of my own childhood experiences and creativity. And
and kids as well. Like, I mean, there's no filter with kids. It's awesome. They like, there is no, there's not, we can't do this. It's like, how can we do this? You know?
Right. When the best gift is the cardboard box, not what came in
it's
the
fort.
cardboard.
It's amazing.
It could be anything. Yes. Yeah. The magic that can happen, the imagination. I really feel like imagination is such a gift children have. And as adults, we tend to lose it. And yet imagination can be so supportive in business, in life, in careers. So
exactly. Yeah.
I love it. When you think about inspiration, where or who inspires you?
Gosh, I get inspiration a lot. Like, so my kids definitely inspire me. You know, everyone's going to say this about their kids, but they're pretty amazing. So just, you know, the way they live their lives and the way that they're so different from me and some in other ways the same, you know. I'm also inspired by entrepreneurs, you know, other people in business, speakers. But then, like, there's other things as well, like just, you know, going for a hike or, you know, bringing the dog for a walk or something like that. It's just kind of getting out in the world and just like not thinking about yourself for a while and just kind of getting in nature. I find really inspiring as well.
Yeah. When was the last time you were inspired?
That's a good question. So I said, this is a really random thing, but I saw a one of the Facebook groups I'm on. I saw a post from somebody, and we're talking about doing podcasts and everything. And I have an issue in my house that it's a busy house at different times of the day, and it's loud, and I have traffic kind of going across the front. And the person said that they were doing their podcast in their closet, and I was like, oh my God, that's an amazing idea. So they just, like, you know, because the clothes are buffering a lot of the sound, and the closet is generally like an inside room inside your house, so it doesn't have a wall to the outside. So I thought that was pretty inspiring.
Yeah, I love it. I think that, I'm just picturing now someone in their closet recording a podcast.
I know. Well, I'm thinking that or the bathroom. I'm like, wow, this is like the things you could do, you know, get like one of those standee things and put it behind you, and like nobody would see. They only see like this little space. They don't see the rest of it.
Right. It is. Yeah. The things that, the way people solve problems and can inspire us to do similar things or tweak that problem solving to fit our needs. I think it's great. It's amazing how community can inspire our own creativity.
Right. Yeah. And just like, again, I said it earlier, but like looking at how other people do things, I'm always looking to learn, like, how exactly did you do that? Or why are you doing this way? Or even with marketing and stuff, and, you know, being on podcasts, the way people kind of interact with you and the questions and everything. It's just like, I'm taking it all in. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah. Do you feel like you've always been that way, even as a kid? Like you were just a sponge kind of?
I think so. Yeah. I've always been kind of introverted. So I was always the quiet one, just quietly observing. So I would like see a lot. I feel like I would see a lot because I wasn't busy like talking or acting out or anything. But I'm always like curious, you know, like if I see someone do something, I'm like, why are they doing it like that? Or why are they doing that? Or, you know, so always like curious.
Yeah. How do you feel that helps you in your business?
I feel it just, I don't take the first answer, you know, unless it truly is like the right answer. But like, I'm always looking at like, is there a better way to do this? Is there a quicker way? Is there a more efficient way? Is this somebody else could be doing besides me, you know, like what, rather than just kind of spinning your wheels or being productive for the sake of being busy. You know, it's like, how can we really kind of tighten this up a little bit if we need to,
Mm-hmm.
and delegate it, or just not do it. Sometimes that's the answer as well. No, sometimes it is. It's like, well, why am I doing all this anyway? I'm like, I'm not getting a return, or I'm not, it's not really serving me. So let's just not do it.
Yeah. That's a really great reminder that
Yeah,
sometimes
I forget it all the time. I'm like, and I catch myself, I'm like, what am I doing?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. I'm thinking about times where I'm like, I don't need to be doing this. This is not
Right.
helping me in this moment. And yet it's that habit of continuing to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the kind of everyday issues that you have had to use creativity to solve?
I don't, everyday issues. One of the things that, when I kind of started prior to this in all my businesses, I've always been kind of the person in the background. I've had a couple of info businesses that had like a speaker in them who would go on stage and do all that kind of stuff, which I was quite comfortable being in the background, nobody looking at me. So with this business, I've come out a lot more to the forefront. And so for me, it was just kind of getting used to being on the camera, speaking, having little crib notes around the place, things like that, just to kind of get comfortable with what I'm doing. This pen, it helps me be comfortable, believe it or not, because I fiddle with it when I'm talking, and it kind of looks like, yeah, see,
Only
you're doing
one
the same
too.
thing. Only one too, but it just kind of, it almost, I don't know, it's weird. It almost gives you like a sense of authority or something, but it's just like finding just the little hacks that you can do to make yourself feel better, more comfortable. I tend to do this in my chair a lot. So now I have my toes planted in the carpet. So I'm trying not to,
chair
going back and
swiveling,
forth. Yeah,
pen
exactly.
holding. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like all kinds of little things like that. And I really want to listen to your podcast now and see what other people have answered that question with, because I think there'll be a lot to learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the kind of everyday issues that we don't pay attention to until we have to, and how do we solve those problems with creativity and like holding the pen or letting
it gives your hands something to do, so they're not like, hey, so
right all over the place.
Exactly.
Or noticing that, oh, I like to move when I talk, but when I'm on a screen, the only way I can do that is if I swivel my chair. The creative solutions, I think.
That's it.
Yeah, I think those are really sweet to just highlight, because we all have them and we all do them, and we probably don't pay close attention to it until someone asks us the question. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you work with other people, how would you encourage others to find creativity in their lives?
I think just be open-minded. Don't be so tied to your own idea, or or don't be so tied to being right. I love when I can get on a team where it's like, you can truly say anything. It could be like the worst thing in the world, and people will be like, maybe, but how about we do this? It's just having that. I encourage people to be vulnerable. I feel like we go around feeling like we have to present ourselves in a certain way, and it's just be vulnerable and be yourself. And I think that's going to help a lot as well, rather than just trying to be, I'm not going to say try to be something that you're not, but try to like make yourself seem bigger than you are, because you feel like you need to do that to be, for people to respect you or whatever. I think people will respect you a lot more if you're just be yourself.
Yeah. When you bring up vulnerability. How do you access, or how do you show up in your vulnerability?
I just try to be vulnerable. If I don't know, I just kind of put it out there, because I really feel like at the end of the day, honesty is there. And if you go down like a path of like, oh no, I'm an expert in this, and then all of a sudden you're like, I really don't know what I'm doing. You know? So just and I think people just appreciate it, because it's the real you. It's not. I think of some people that I know that are always like so kind of put together and so whatever, and it's like, but I don't feel comfortable with them. And I think people will feel more comfortable if you're just be you, and be vulnerable. It's not the worst thing in the world. We all get out of bed 2 feet at a time and all the rest of it. So,
Yeah. That permission to not know everything, permission
exactly.
to really say, I don't know. And I'm willing to find out,
Yeah, exactly. Having that openness as well, that you're not closed off, that you want to learn, you're curious.
Yeah, I love it. I love the bringing up vulnerability, because I really do feel that it goes so well with creativity. We do have to be vulnerable to kind of step into that creative space and try really far out ideas.
Exactly. And sometimes like the best stuff comes out of that then. Like if you have a group of people brainstorming on something and they're all being vulnerable and, there's like some crazy stuff coming out, but there's also some good stuff, and ideas are piling on top of each other.
Yeah.
So, it's like a game of radio, except it's positive, Right. But some great stuff comes out of that. And then it's like, nobody even knows who the idea was originally, because one person said something and someone else says something else that brings it to here. It's just really cool when you're in that kind of a situation, and that you can just say, even if it's stupid, it doesn't matter. You just say it, and it triggers something in somebody else, and off you go.
And there's that safety to say the quote unquote stupid idea that no one's going to shame you for saying it, that there is that openness in the community, whether it's on a team or friends or whatever, to show up in that way. Yeah. So important. I love all of it. I think it's, I think we forget how much creativity is in business and how much creativity is in our own personal life and navigating the world.
Right. Yeah. I don't think we give ourselves credit for, how, because sometimes you're just creative, even if it's just like navigating traffic into town or something, and you're just like, I'm just going to go this way, and it's all good.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Well, this has been such a treat chatting with you.
Yeah, this has been fun for me too, Mari. This is awesome. Thank you.
I love it. And I just have one final question, and that's, what do you believe is your secret to creativity?
I think being curious. I think is it. I think it's just being curious, and I guess vulnerable as well. And just, ask why, asking the questions. Don't just accept at face value what you see.
Yeah. And that can help you in so many areas of your life, not only in business, but I think of like at the doctor's office, in the medical field, keep asking the questions.
Yes, especially there. Do I really need the surgery? Are you sure?
Ask the questions. And I think we don't ask enough questions sometimes. We just take the word of someone else. And so I really appreciate the reminder of curiosity, vulnerability, ask the questions, ask why, get the information so you can make that decision.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Well, this has been such a treat. And if people want to get in touch with you or learn more about the things that you have going on, how would they go about doing that?
Sure. So they can get in touch with me. I have a little kind of worksheet that I did for if anyone is interested in sponsorship, I'll give that. And then if not, that gets you on my, into my email as well. But it's connectedsponsors.com/finding sponsors.
Great.
So they can go there, and from there they'll get on my email, so they can they'll get emails and they can respond, and I would be more than happy to chat with anyone.
Wonderful. And I'll put all of that information in the show notes as well. And thank you so much for sharing all of your tips and tools and reminders about creativity today.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.